Hey everyone, Neil deGrasse Tyson here, and let's talk about power. Not the kind that lights up your homes, but the kind that flows through human societies. You know the saying, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, it turns out that's not just a catchy phrase, it's a well-documented psychological and neurological phenomenon. When someone gains power, it triggers changes in the brain, altering their perception, emotions, and ultimately their behavior. We're talking reduced empathy, increased impulsivity, impaired self-awareness, a whole cascade of effects that can turn even the most well-intentioned individuals down a dark path. In this video, we're diving deep into the brains of powerful figures throughout history, from emperors to entrepreneurs, to understand how power warps our neural circuitry and what, if anything, we can do to mitigate its corrupting influence. Let's start with Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who embodies the seductive nature of power. Before he was emperor, Napoleon was a brilliant military strategist, a product of the French Revolution. He believed in its ideals, equality, liberty, democracy. He even spoke out against monarchy. He presented himself as a man of the people, someone who understood their struggles. But as Napoleon's victories mounted, so did his power. And with it, his brain began to change. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational decision-making, took a back seat to the more primal, reward-seeking regions of the brain. He crowned himself emperor, abandoning the very democracy he once championed. The once strategic Napoleon became impulsive, ignoring his advisors, convinced of his own infallibility. This led to disastrous campaigns like the invasion of Russia, where his grand army was decimated by the harsh winter. See, power triggers a flood of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. It's the same chemical rush we get from things like food and sex, but in the case of power, it becomes addictive. Napoleon, drunk on dopamine and his own perceived greatness, chased conquest after conquest until he was ultimately exiled. Now let's fast forward to the 20th century and examine Joseph Stalin, another figure whose rise to power reveals the brain's dark side. In his early days as a revolutionary, Stalin fought against the oppressive Russian monarchy. He spoke of worker equality, collective decision-making, the ideals of socialism. But as he consolidated his grip on power, a chilling transformation took hold. Stalin's brain, particularly the amygdala, the seat of fear and threat detection, went into overdrive. He became consumed by paranoia, seeing enemies everywhere, even within his own ranks. He purged the Communist Party, executing former allies, anyone he perceived as a threat. The Great Purge, a campaign of terror that decimated the Soviet Union, was a direct result of Stalin's warped perception of reality. His brain, flooded with stress hormones like cortisol, became wired for suspicion and aggression. What's even more disturbing is the suppression of mirror neurons, the neural pathways that allow us to empathize with others. Stalin's ability to inflict mass suffering without remorse is a chilling testament to power's ability to erode our humanity. Chapter 3. Elon Musk, from visionary to Twitter tyrant. Now you might be thinking, okay, Neil, those are extreme examples from the history books. What about someone like Elon Musk, a modern-day innovator? Well, even in the 21st century, the intoxicating effects of power remain the same. Early in his career, Musk was known for his rational, strategic approach. He listened to experts, fostered collaboration, and took calculated risks, leading to the success of Tesla, SpaceX, and PayPal. But as his wealth and influence ballooned, a shift occurred. Musk's decision-making became increasingly impulsive and erratic. He began dismissing expert advice, believing his own intellect to be superior in every field. A classic case of the Dunning-Kruger effect, amplified by power. His hostile takeover of Twitter, now X, and subsequent management style are prime examples. Mass firings, policy changes on a whim, and attacks on critics all point to increased paranoia and a need for control. The same dopamine rush that fueled Napoleon's conquests is at play here, driving Musk to amass influence and silence dissent, even if it means jeopardizing the very companies he built. From Napoleon to Stalin to Musk, a clear and unsettling pattern emerges. Idealistic beginnings, accumulation of power, threat perception and paranoia, cognitive dissonance and moral disengagement, and finally, megalomania and isolation. The scary part? This isn't just about morals, it's about neurology. Power doesn't just corrupt character, it fundamentally alters brain function, reinforcing overconfidence, paranoia, and a diminished capacity for ethical reasoning. So what's the solution? How do we protect ourselves and our societies from the corrupting influence of power? The answer lies in accountability, transparency, and a healthy dose of skepticism, even especially when it comes to those we perceive as brilliant and powerful. Remember, the human brain is a malleable thing, susceptible to the intoxicating effects of power. It's up to us to create systems that mitigate those effects and ensure that power, in all its forms, serves the greater good.